Welcome to an overview of organizational communication ethics. My name is Melissa Pratt, and I will be guiding you through the different aspects that help make up this communication ethic. Welcome to an overview of organizational communication ethics. My name is Melissa Pratt, and I will be guiding you through the different aspects that help make up this communication ethic. Let's start with the basics. Organizational communication is founded on the concept of togetherness. We, the organization, build a dwelling place by working together. According to Arnett, Fritz, and Bell, we now spend up to 70 hours a week in some form of an organization. With the increase in technology, organizations are no longer confined to just four walls. People now have access to each other at hours beyond the normal workday, adding another complex layer to how effective communication works within an organization. The heart of organizational communication can be found in its guiding question. What type of dwelling does a given organization want to be, claim to be, and function as? Depending on the answer to that question, the organization will employ certain communicative strategies in order to reach its goal or promote and protect the good that is created. For example, in a public school setting, the administrators, the teachers, and the parents work together to create the organization's dwelling place. If it is important to each party to establish an environment in which students recognize that the adults in their lives are one team, then each party will put into practice strategies that communicate that to the students. For instance, a school may have a school leadership team, also known as SLT, in which parents, teachers, and administrators meet once a month to discuss ways to reach the surrounding community and get more parents involved in school activities. This communicative practice, if consistent and persistent, will create the type of environment that shows functional, collaborative relationships between all parties, communicating to students that we are all one. Every communication ethic has a good that they feel is worth protecting and promoting. Organizational communication is no different, except that its protected good isn't one particular good, as much as it's a theme. Every organization has a commitment to creating a dwelling place, whether implicitly or explicitly. And this ethic and organization decides what good they want to protect. Then they create a dwelling place that promotes that good. This dwelling place will then shape the communication practices of the organization. There are three important components that are recognized and understood as a part of organizational communications ethic. Each component helps the organization's good. First, every member of an organization will come in with their own idea of what makes something good. This cannot be avoided because of the variety of backgrounds. However, because of component number 2, it doesn't have to be a roadblock. All members must be committed to a common good in order for an organization to work effectively. They may all have their own idea of what goods work in their own life, but in order to establish the type of dwelling place or environment they want, each person must commit to one common goal, one vision, one good. The last point, point number 3, is an integral piece. Each member of the organization must take responsibility for their role in building the dwelling place that they want to create. That means that once they are committed to the common good, they must do their part to make sure that the common good is established. At this point in time, you may be wondering, what exactly is a dwelling place? Well, in short, it is an integral part of organizational communication ethics, and it works in conjunction with another essential piece of the ethic, community of memory. A dwelling place is created by the common good that is shared between the people in the organization. It establishes goals, beliefs, and communicative practices. It's where the organization's good lives or dwells. Every organization has a good that it wants to protect and promote. None of them are equal and none of them are neutral. That protected good can be seen in the daily practices of that organization. Its partner, community of memory, is the history of how a dwelling place's particular good was promoted and protected. The memory tells the story of the practices and understanding that has sustained the organization throughout its existence. Let's look at these organizations in detail. As each of these are discussed in detail, you will realize how interconnected they both are, how each works together to promote and protect the good. No organization lacks bias. They each have a good they are seeking to protect and promote. So it's not shocking that some things in an organization are welcome and others are dismissed based on how well they serve the purpose of the good. This good is negotiated and must continue to be negotiated in order for the dwelling place to thrive. Once that good stops being negotiated, then the organization dies out. The mission must be clear. If it's not, the good will fail to be articulated in the organization's daily life, making it unproductive and unfruitful, headed towards extinction. Most negotiators have versions of the common good they seek to promote. Each competes to have their version be embedded in the day-to-day mission of the organization. What is critical, however, is that neither negotiator falls into the category of settler or uninformed. Each of these are extremes and detrimental to the longevity and health of a dwelling place. Arnett, Fritz, and Bell state the settler fails to acknowledge the importance of public articulation of organizational goods. They have been with the organization for so long that they take for granted the practices that were set in place that have allowed the organization to thrive. The uninformed, on the other hand, are quite overzealous. Arnett, Fritz, and Bell also states that the uninformed member simply does not know enough about the organization's mission and purpose to articulate themselves to others. Again, placing the organization in a vulnerable position, same as the settler, because its good is not being communicated effectively. This leads to the importance of things that are said and sayings that are created. Everything starts out as saying. Once an organization has put the saying into a public atmosphere, it becomes what's known as a said. To better illustrate this concept, let's return to our public school example. Let's say the principal of a public school informs the students about the expectations for behavior in the hallways. First expectation, walk in a straight line when going to lunch or any assembly. Second expectation, no running, pushing, or shoving. And third expectation, no yelling or obscene words. Now that this has been announced to the students as an expectation, it moves from being a saying, which are the current practices put in place to help an organization achieve its good, to now being what's called a said, which is commonly known expectations that guide all future interactions. The settler and the uninformed must be aware of how a good is being communicated in and through a dwelling place. The organization's awareness of the common good they are striving for will determine whether the goal is achieved or not. A dwelling place is established through the goods that it wants to protect and promote. It thrives when those goods are communicated effectively and thoughtfully. The movie Lean on Me is an excellent example of members who are dedicated to one goal, creating a dwelling place that meets that goal. Principal Joe Clark uses radical methods to change Paterson, New Jersey's East Side High School. He removes drug dealers and users from the school, challenges the teachers to take more responsibility, and inspires the students to be more than they ever thought possible. In this particular scene, Principal Clark is reprimanding the teachers for not taking more responsibility for their students' education. Things like staying after school to tutor struggling students and spending more time preparing their lesson plans. When one teacher asks, "How do we get students to come in for tutoring?" he suggests that they go to their houses, talk to their parents, and if their parents can't read, bring them in too. Once these expectations had been communicated to the teachers, it moved from being a saying to a said. His standards and goals have been communicated to the public, establishing the framework needed to create a dwelling place. The next important theory in organizational communication ethics is community of memory. It is both a collection of the past and an engagement of the future. Our past helps to shape our lives. We may look to it for advice to help us deal with our present. In many ways, our past does affect our future, but it doesn't have to define it. We must all learn to look to our past to help navigate our future without letting the past stand in the way of our future. We do this by adjusting and adapting our practices based on the results we want to see. This is the core of a community of memory. When it comes to organizations, their community of memory is comprised of all the practices and people that help sustain the organization, its past, its history. Though that history is important because it tells the story of the organization, the past must be willing to listen to the future because as times change, so must the organization. It must adjust and adapt in order to survive, thrive, and meet future goals. In this respect, the memory is alive. Arnett, Fritz, and Bell state, a community of memory is alive, owned by no one person, and the product of ongoing engagement with the past through the present, engaging the future that is not yet. It is constantly evolving, breathing new life into the organization at every turn of the times. This is why it is important for the individual to understand that they are a piece of a very large puzzle. Without them, the puzzle wouldn't be complete. However, the puzzle as a whole is greater than anything they could do on their own. Therefore, the individual is not the most important part of the memory, but what the individual is willing to contribute to the story is what's valuable. The story is what is written down and recorded in history for all those who are to come. It will guide them through the future. Members of an organization must understand that the good is bigger than just them. This is the purpose and the point of community of memory. It keeps record of the why and the how of an organization and hopes to aid those who build the organization's future. Each individual person adds to this memory, being well aware that they are not the end, but a factor that allows the good to thrive well beyond them. The last example of the theories formalized in organizational communications ethics is displayed in an article by Matthew Seeger titled, Ethics and Communication in an Organizational Context, Moving from Fringe to the Center. The article has two major points that align well to organizational communications ethics. First are responsibility and accountability in the workplace. According to Seeger, responsibility is a person's obligation to a larger group beyond themselves, such as an organization. Accountability is critical to social interaction because it offers an account for decisions and actions so the individual will bear the consequences of their own actions. These two things are pertinent in creating a dwelling place. All members must take responsibility and be held accountable for achieving the organization's goals. A second major point of the article discusses the role of culture in an organization, which is set in place both by the set expectations and the organization's history, also known as its community of memory. Seeger argues the importance of being aware of how an organization's values conflicts and intersects with an individual's values. These values must be negotiated and continue to be negotiated. Organizations and the individuals that make them up must work out their common goal in order for it to be achieved and the culture to be established. I hope you've enjoyed this brief overview of organizational communication ethics. For future inquiry about the topic, works have been cited for you.